Hello and welcome to another episode of Power On Podcast Portable. I am one of your hosts, Sushi B, and with me is the wonderful Muragaru553, better known as Taylor.
Better known, maybe also known.
Okay, also known, better known, also known.
Better know a district. Oh,
Yeah.
Bear. Yeah. Did you ask me how I was doing? Because I totally wasn't even listening to that.
Actually, I didn't. How are you doing?
Jerk. I'm tired. I'm tired. But I am alright. I'm good. How about yourself?
Not bad. I'm ready to hit up this episode.
Yeah, hit it up now. Okay.
There's a nice little background hit there.
Yeah. So sticking with the games that start with the letter M, which I pointed out to you
Yeah, the other
off
day.
the podcast, and that was my evil plan all along, was to keep with the games from that start with the letter M. We are going to talk about
Muramasa, the Demon Blade on the Wii, which is a sort of 2D action platform type game, and it is a game that was released back in 2009 from developer Vanillaware, who was quite popular, I believe, before with some games such as Odin Sphere, and they have an upcoming title, which is, what is that, King's Crown or something, or...
it's definitely not King's Quest. King's Quest
No,
is
no, it's like
that old
King's
brutal,
Crown or something.
Yeah, I think it is King's Crown.
Right, it's like a 4-player action beat-em-up type game. Graphically looks phenomenal. I would presume it's going to be a pretty fun game as well.
Looks crazy.
Yeah, so another Nintendo released game here. I don't know why we keep doing that, but we will get off that at some point.
Told
But,
you, it's my love for M started word thingy jigs of games
You're right.
and Nintendo. Ha ha ha.
Yes.
Fa ha ha. Fa
So,
ha ha.
this was a pretty big release on the Wii, at least before it was coming out. I know there was quite a bit of fanfare, and people were quite excited for it, mainly
Now,
because I
It
think...
came out in 2009?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, because I'm trying to remember. I think there was... I do remember there being a bit of fanfare, but I can't remember, or I can't really recall, because, I don't know, around this time, I had been back from studying, and I was finishing up my senior year at school, or at uni, so, like, I don't remember much.
Yeah.
So, I honestly, other than, like, people kind of saying it, and then seeing him, like, oh, that looks pretty shiny, and then kind of getting away from it, I don't really remember hearing too much fanfare, other than, oh, this looks awesome.
Well, I think there was a fairly big push by many of the game websites and stuff, just kind of focusing on the fact that the Wii didn't really have any very big 2D type games like this, aside from maybe like the Super Paper Mario, I think, which had come out just after release, and just that it looked really nice. It had a very interesting theme. Of course, it was Japan, so people got pretty excited about that sort of thing as well. And I don't know, it just had some uniqueness to it that perhaps a lot of other Wii games didn't at the time. I think people were kind of still making fun of the Wii for, waggle controls and shovelware, so this kind of stood out in a way.
Mm. I don't know, what is your kind of stance with the 2D aspect of it? Because I think it's kind of nice to go back to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's nice that we can still have a handful of games that do come out in 2D, and that most of the games that do come out in 2D are very, very well made.
Very, very well, I mean, yeah, they've had years to work on it, so they better.
Sure. But it seems like they've always been able to kind of progress it just a little bit here and there, and I think most fans don't expect a big jump. I think we kind of get the idea that, yes, we'll get some graphical jumps, we'll get a few little additions here and there, maybe in gameplay, but the limit, although not quite reached, is kind of getting there with how far you can actually go with a 2D game. I mean, I could see arguments as to why you would disagree with that, but there's definitely kind of a curving of like how far you can go. I don't know, would you agree with that, or?
Well, yeah, I think there's always going to be some sort of limitations with things, having games in 2D or having them in a 3D environment. So
Right.
But I don't know. Where do you think the Muramasa sits with this exactly? How do you think it's? Do you think it pushed the limits pretty far out there? Do you think it's kind of sits kind of token even and doesn't really do too horribly much to?
I would say, at least graphically at the time, it was pushing pretty far. And I think that gameplay was adding a few little good new elements. But it was still kind of standard. It wasn't too out there, and it didn't add a lot of crazy elements such as gravity things running on walls and such, but it kind of just modified what you would expect in a platform game with a little bit more action-heavy sequences.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think...
I don't think it really did too horribly much to try to push the limits of the concept of a 2D game, except for more so kind of graphically.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of these indie developers are doing a little bit more creative things in that regard, but this game kind of plays it a little safe, but a little bit out of the safety net as well.
Yeah, because there are some things why the graphics are really, really gorgeous. That's a very... It's, I guess, more so distinctive to Vanillaware, but it's a very distinct kind of graphical style to it.
Right.
Which I like the scenery. However, some of the people look really kind of weird.
Some of them.
I'm not gonna like some of the the fishermen and things like that. Or they're not rickshaws. What the hell? Kind of.
Those sellers, like the.
Well, you have the vendors and stuff, but no, it's not rickshaw. But the guys that are they will transport you to different areas. In the game.
Okay, yeah. They look really similar to the fishermen.
Yeah, but they're like muscular, but almost like they've been bathed in some sort of radioactive waste because they're kind of like deformed in a way. I don't know.
Right. Their stomachs are like sucked in, and it looks really awkward, right?
Yeah.
And they're pretty much got no clothes on almost, and they look kind of goofy.
Yeah.
Giant eyebrows. They're kind of strange looking.
Yeah, I know. It's not. I don't mean to be like, oh, that's crappy or anything. It's just it's different. And if you're more so, I don't know, if you just kind of want a not a unique, I guess would be a good word for it, twist to how like people are drawn, you might be a little offset by it, I guess. I don't know. I was kind of like, where is his body at, kind of thing. Because their stomachs are really sucked in and stuff, and it's almost like they're starving, muscular people, and it's kind of...
Mostly just those guys. I mean, a lot of the other characters are just kind of there, right? I mean, you have the old ladies who are running the restaurants, or the younger ladies running the restaurants. They don't really look too bizarre.
Right. Say. Yeah. It's more so those handful of repeating characters.
Special characters.
Right.
So, getting on this a little bit more of the graphics then, what do you think about such as the bosses and the enemies and even just the two main characters?
The bosses, they were strange.
Big,
they were pretty, I wouldn't say out there, but they were really distinct.
Yeah.
You could, and I know some of them, like the one little girl, she's not really too out of the, I don't know what's the word I want to use. She wasn't too out of the circle of normalcy, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm tired, leave me alone. But like a lot of the other bosses seem very, they had an idea of how they wanted to do it, and they went with it. Like the giant, they're like the first boss you fight with Momohime.
The monks?
Yeah, God, those guys.
Pretty weird looking.
Burned into my retinas. They're kind of...
I'm sure that was their goal, right? To really remember some of these bizarre bosses. You had like the giant samurai warrior. Do you remember him?
That Kisuke's...
Right. The giant samurai and...
That seemed a little... I don't want to put it, kind of almost, I don't want to mean this in a negative way, like stereotypical of maybe something that you might like see from like an anime or something.
I think many of them were kind of, that just maybe drawn a little bit more uniquely.
Dramatically.
Yeah. I mean, you had later on... I
really like the spider.
Okay, the spider was cool.
Yeah. As well as the dragon. I believe that was on Mount Fuji, right? On Fuji-san?
I think it was on Fuji-san, yeah. That dragon was pretty cool.
Yeah, he was pretty...
They had a really neat effect with how it would kind of disappear into the clouds almost, and you would just see like lightning bolts shaking, and then you knew it was just going to suddenly burst out and strike you.
Right.
That was pretty neat.
Pretty spiffy. As for the characters, the two main characters, Kisuke and Momohime, I don't know. Nothing... Kisuke doesn't really... I would say he doesn't look like a stereotypical hero, because he's not really your kind of stereotypical... goody two-shoe hero.
Right.
So I don't really... He's kind of short.
Yeah? Doesn't help when
he seems really small.
It doesn't help when he's holding one of those giant blades. He looks much smaller then, too.
Right, yeah, because the sword's like bigger than him.
Much bigger than him, even.
Yeah. It's just kind of like,
And it looks really weird.
And especially it seems like all the other enemies seem to tower over him.
But that's, I mean, most of those bosses are just giant, right? I mean,
Right.
they're huge, many of them. So
Don't even just a lot of just the normal ninja dudes are kind of maybe not like
you're
super taller than him, but a
close
little
to
bit
his
taller.
height, and I think
Well,
most of
maybe
them
because he's
roughly. But
dashing.
maybe that's it. Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking that because it was kind of because he gets really low when he's dashing too. He's like,
Yeah.
so I don't know. How about yourself? What did you
I
think of?
think they did a really cool job with the bosses. I think that although they were a bit strange, some of them,
Mhm.
I think that I like their creativity with a lot of them. There was a few like the Oni. Do you remember there was that one Oni, and he kind of had that weird suck. Instead of having the sucked in gut, he had like the fat outward gut. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they had some really cool Oni type bosses and just enemies. I like that one samurai he's this giant samurai and his armor is like all blue and he has like that giant sword and he can send those ghost horses at you.
Okay, okay.
He was pretty neat. They just kind of tweaked some pretty classic ideas and ran with it. Some of them are pretty straightforward. There's like a giant octopus thing that you can fight, and there's centipedes. They're just like, just giant centipedes.
Yeah.
Those are fun though because you can get tons and tons of hits on them. You just keep attacking them.
Smacking them.
You get like 999 hits easily on them if you got like a weak sword. You can just keep attacking them really heavily. But I like the uniqueness that we keep bringing this word up, but they did a good job of giving something familiar but adding a little bit of a twist to it. And then as for Kisuke and Momohime, I think that they're fine. I think Kisuke was a little more interesting not only as a character but just in design. I think Momohime is a little bit kind of just there. I mean, she looks fine, but I didn't really feel that they went kind of as far as they maybe could have with the design. It was just a kind of typical
hoping
classic
for more
design.
naked. Is that what you're hoping
No,
for?
not even that. Just not so much. We already got that with that weird fox chick. She was pretty much naked. No, she just seemed really typical to me. Nothing really made her stand out compared to what Kisuke kind of looked like to me. I mean, he has like skulls on his belt, and he's got kind of dusty grayish hair because he's kind of young, but he's kind of older too. Like, I don't know, they kind of gave him a little more character just based on his look. I don't know. I might be just reaching a bit for that, but that's just kind of how I felt.
That's how you feel. That's how you feel. There was a point I wanted to bring up, but I forgot it. Oh well. Oh well. What about the scenery for it? Because I liked it. I was sad that there wasn't enough snow. There's only so much snow, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, but it was very nice. There was that one snowy backdrop where the sun is kind of setting, and so it's got like this orange color in the sky mixing with the kind of deep blues that are higher up. And then there's like the other parts where they kind of put the snow in front of Kisuke or Momohime. So as he or she is running, the snow is behind. You can see it moving behind them, but also in front of them.
Right.
I thought that was kind of neat. I think most of the backgrounds were just gorgeous. I think that there are times where you feel it's become a little tedious and you feel like you're just seeing the same huts or the same trees. But once you leave an area, you get a completely new backdrop.
Right.
And I thought that was kind of nice. There's only a couple of parts where you will get the same cherry blossoms a couple of times or what have you.
Tree,
that
like
is
dead tree tops that you're
right, something like that. But typically, like once you left an area, you got a kind of new setting and it was fresh again.
Something I really liked about the game was it being, because it's in Japan and all that, and actually kind of playing through some of the areas, like you go to Issei and Iga, and it's kind of cool to be able to see that kind of stuff. So I don't know, that was just a really.
Did you get a good representation of it from the game? Did it just seem so out of place?
Well, no, not really. I mean, it didn't really. No, but
you could see your house in the background. Oh, yeah, I live there.
Hey, right there. No. But it was just kind of nice, especially because I was not expecting, but I know, I just wasn't expecting it in the game.
Were you expecting maybe more of a fantastical world, kind of? Or?
No, I was expecting in Japan, but I was expecting either something, your typical kind of, like, areas more so based in either just like Kyoto or the Edo.
Edo, yeah. That makes sense.
Instead of Edo, like Tokyo. So. But I mean, a long time ago, the Nagoya Chubu area was pretty important, so I should have been more prepared for it. But I was just like, okay, cool. Yeah. That's out of the way. What did you think of the enemies?
There are a fair number of enemies, but you still get kind of with a classic action game or beat 'em up type game, you're going to get a lot of run-of-the-mill same stuff happening over and over again. So you will get a good handful of whatever demons or monsters and certainly a lot of samurai and ninjas. Especially ninjas. There's a lot of ninjas.
Lots of ninjas.
And I think there's only maybe 2 palette swaps on them, or 2 or 3. There's like maybe
few,
blue, brown, and white, if I recall.
Yeah.
Not too much, though.
A grayish.
There might have been yeah, that sounds about right, too. So, I mean, you got just some palette swaps. They basically had the same attacks. I mean, here or there, maybe they could breathe fire a little bit or throw shurikens at you or whatever, but you kind of get stuck with the same old after a while. There were some good ones, though. There were like those demon samurai guys were kind of neat.
Yeah, they were so easy, though.
Oh, they're really easy.
Those guys are really easy.
The bigger the enemies were, the easier they were to take down.
Yeah.
Just there's so much more of them to hit, and because you were smaller, you could just kind of slice through them with that sort of swallow dive attack, and you just get on the other side of them, and they kind of slowly try to turn around, and then you just go through the other side, and so. But they're animated very well. They look really neat. But yeah, sometimes you just kind of feel like, haven't I just beaten 100 of these guys already? Did you feel the same, or?
Yeah, I kind of felt the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't mind most of the enemies, but there were those stupid fucking kite ninjas.
Those guys are bastards.
I hate those guys because it like penalizes you for killing them. It's like, what the? Why? This is so dumb. And it's like, oh, I'm gonna blow up now, and then I'm gonna do stupid amounts of damage and break your sword, eat a dick because you decided to kill me.
That's true. They did extremely large amount of damage, and most of the enemies in the game often they scaled up with you. As you leveled up, you could get a little bit stronger than them, and your swords would as well, but after a while I noticed that lots of the enemies were just kind of scaling to kind of accommodate you, I suppose, so that you don't just get lazy as you play the game. But those kite guys are just such bastards because you're already fighting all these guys on the ground, and they're throwing bombs at you and whatever else, and then you're like, okay, I got to get this guy out of here. He's bothering the hell out of me. So you go up there to fight him. You go up in the sky. You just got to get lucky and hope that you get through him without getting caught with his explosion as he dies. And it's such a pain in the ass all the time. As you said, your swords break, and then you're without at least one of your swords. You take a massive amount of damage, and then usually after you kill that guy, there's still 3 or 4 more of them you got to fight.
Yeah.
So,
ninjas. Super lame.
Really annoying. They're probably the most annoying thing in the game. I mean, there's some bosses where I had trouble, and I had to maybe take a day off and come back to them. But then there were kite ninjas, so... Oh, yeah. I don't even like thinking about those jerks. They're one of the more annoying things I've encountered in gaming in a while. So
yeah, they're pretty irksome. What about the voice acting? Because you were telling me that they kept the Japanese voices in and just put in English subtitles. Was that
right? It was all in Japanese. So it's fine. I mean,
would you? I know.
I could understand the odd word or two that I've heard before. But I mean, obviously, 99% of it, I have no idea what they're saying. So I'm reading all the text. But I think it really helps the atmosphere of it. It doesn't take it away and just suddenly you're hearing English on top of this kind of what's supposed to be, I guess, a traditional Japanese quote-unquote story.
Or setting, at least.
Or setting, at least. So I think it really helped the game, actually. It might have hurt the sales of the game a bit. I don't know if people thought that was a bit of a turnoff to them because they couldn't put English dub over top. But personally, I liked it. I mean, for you, obviously, you can just play it no problem. But I thought it was okay.
I was just say it seems like that's kind of how people feel with the Yakuza series, because isn't 2?
Starting in 2, yeah.
Okay.
Only
they're just like, screw it, let's keep it in Japanese.
It's because not to get too off topic, but I know they had spent a bunch of money and the first game wasn't super successful, so they just thought, if we're going to bring this out, we got to kind of cut some costs somewhere. That was one of the reasons. So
it could have been a cost thing. It could have also because they wanted to keep it kind of in that vibe, in that setting, without really making it too jarring.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if Vanillaware's had English dubs over other games. I've only really played this one from them, so I'm not really sure. But I would kind of think it probably was partly cost if I had to bet money on it. But yeah,
no,
a dollar.
something I really liked that was kind of didn't really it wasn't important at all was when you'd go into the restaurants and you'd eat food.
Yep.
I like that because you could order different things from a menu. Usually it was like 3 different things or so that
Roughly
you could
around
choose
3.
from. Yeah, in different restaurants in each of the little towns you visited and stuff. And it was just nice because you could go into the restaurant and order the food, and it'll like show a table, and the food will come there, and I think you press the A button.
You have to keep pressing the A button, yeah.
Yeah, and he'll eat the food.
Ume, ume.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too. And it does actually have a small function in the game as it raised your spirit level to forge more swords, but it's not really, really detrimental if you don't do it.
The food's tasty.
Yeah, I liked it too. I don't know if you could answer this, but was some of that actually cuisine that's local to the area? Do you know, or?
Well, I mean, I know there's some things in there. Like all of that looked like things that you would eat in Japan, somewhere or another.
Okay, so, but you weren't really sure if it was particularly for that area of.
Oh, each area. Well, I mean, a lot of the food's repeated, so.
Yeah, but I know there were some like coastal towns, and you could only get certain fish dishes there, or what have you. So.
I imagine so. I mean, if they're going to the efforts to, be like, this is Iga and this is Issei and all this kind of stuff, and you're going to Mikawa and all that kind of fun stuff, I would at least hope they would get the damn local foods right. So, but yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking we should move into one other technical aspect of the game, and that is the music. Now, this game has some really interesting musical choices. There's such a clash of things going on there. I don't know if you will totally agree with me or not, but as I was playing the game, one moment in the game I'm getting these kind of traditional instruments and tunes that kind of reminded me of the old anime Ninja Scroll.
Oh, okay.
They had a lot of like kind of the similar, I don't know what instrument that is, but it's like a really twangy type sound. Do you know?
Is it like the shamisen?
To be honest, I don't know the names. But there's a lot of just things like that, or you'd hear, like just clicking sounds that would remind you of maybe other samurai type anime or things that you've seen or heard. That would be like a big part of the game. But then you'd go to another place and it would just be like this jazzy, catchy tune, running across the forest or something, and it was totally complete opposite of what I'd just heard prior to. And I like it though. I think it was a really interesting choice on their part, and I think it worked really well.
To be honest, I don't even really remember the music at all.
Oh, this is from like a Music Man too.
It seemed very, I don't know, it didn't seem very...
Too much in the background maybe for you, or?
I don't know how to put it. It just, it didn't seem very, maybe, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't, no, I don't remember any of it. I'll be honest, I do not remember. It did not click at all. I'm going to be honest, like, I don't have an issue with the game, but I was excited to play it, but my excitement waned very quickly for it. It kind of got...
It became a chore?
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, it's not like a terrible game or anything. It just didn't click with me. There's things that I think are cool about it, kind of spiffy, but the dark secret is out.
Back to your hole, Taylor.
Back to my hole and get angry about other games.
You look like one of those little imp guys in the game. You go live with those.
That's why I'm so bitter.
Creepy little things in there.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't actually really take much notice of the music then.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is. I don't even remember any of it at all. And I don't know.
That's interesting.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know. As I played it, I was hearing what I felt like were tunes from other games almost. Like there's kind of as I mentioned, the jazzy sounds reminded me of Phantom Brave, or I got all these different kind of meshes of different things, but I found it worked for me. And obviously it just didn't kind of resonate much with you. That's
probably why it didn't, is because it didn't have a central theme to it, maybe, or something. I don't know. It just didn't. Fuck.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fair enough. You're entitled to your opinion this time.
Unless it's wrong.
Well, yeah.
So.
But hey, I like the game and you don't, and I'm not trying to criticize you. I just like to get more info on it. Why didn't you get into it that much?
I don't know. It felt just I got bored with it. I don't know why. Very early on too. Like a
Yeah.
couple hours in, I was just like, this is cool, this is nice, but that's the inner dialogue I had with myself while playing it.
Interesting. And then you got to one of those restaurants, and you're like, yeah, I guess I'll keep playing.
Food's okay. It looks pretty tasty for cartoon food.
Yeah.
So,
I have a few issues with the game too. I mean, I'm not going to lie, and it's not a perfect game by any means. It does have a lot of long stretches where it does get really boring. And I mean, there's one of the biggest problems I found was after you defeat a boss, the first time you're playing through, they force you to run all the way back through the area you've been through. There's no sort of teleport just to go back to the beginning of the area to leave. You have to run through every scene to get out.
yeah,
And although
that's
there's
kinda
no enemies on the screen, it's just kind of tedious, and I don't know
time-consuming.
why they chose to do that. But later on, you do get the ability to warp to different places and such. But at first, it just becomes a real chore, and it's really unfortunate. So I can understand you feeling kind of bored on account of that. Run here, go there, come back, go this. And it's not even fetch questing or anything. It's just following the map, basically.
Right. And I understand that, the kind of how they, like, thinking of it in a musical aspect, they have the traditional, like, Japanese music is very, very slow, very paced, and it's like, and it kind of, it builds, and then, you get this, like, just a splash of all the stuff, and then it goes back into this slow building. Think of, like, Seven Samurai. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That like the fights,
Yeah.
where it's the build up, and then boom, the action, and it's over.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, cool. That's kind of how the game felt, and I don't like that sometimes.
Yeah.
And this time is one of them. That's so. Yeah,
I can see that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other issues still, like, I don't know, just I can't even get them right off the top of my head. But one thing I found kind of interesting about the game is I kind of felt like it was a project that had been in production for some time, as in it seemed like it could have been running on the previous generation hardware, like maybe the PS2 or the Xbox, and it was, for whatever reason, just kind of pushed back to the Wii. And I don't know, this is not a huge problem or anything. It just kind of felt like, oh, this probably could have been released sometime before. It's not even a big knock on the game or anything. It just doesn't feel really, really advanced for the time, like for 2009. It looks fantastic. It looks great. It just, at the same time, I kind of felt like, oh, it doesn't feel like it's pushing the Wii as hard as it could be.
Yeah, like if you were to sit down somebody and be like, here, play this, and not really specify like when it came out or anything.
Yeah, what they're playing it on. Or
Yeah, well, yeah, that sort of. If you were able to do that sort of thing, try to compare it with some of the other games around that time, 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seems like it missed the boat. It feels like it missed the boat. There was some initial excitement for it, or maybe it's too early because now you have like all the indie stuff that's out and about that's getting more popular, and maybe if it was, more of an indie game or something, but Vanillaware is really not that huge to begin with, so
No.
I don't know, maybe it's, kind of just in between the transitional time with now how, a lot of the things are kind of going to the iOS and that sort of thing. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
Just-
maybe.
It seems like it just is a little too late or a little too early to
One or the other, yeah.
one party or another. So
Yeah, I can see that. Well, one other thing is the story is kind of unfortunate. It doesn't really make any sense. You get some ideas of what's going on, and some of the ideas are interesting, but as you're getting closer and closer to the ending, and then, not to spoil too much, but there are more than one ending for both characters. But even those multiple endings don't really kind of satisfy your thirst for what's going on. Like, you get all this great setting and this great build-up, and it's not that it fails, it's just that it doesn't really seem to connect well. You get this story bit, but then suddenly something else happens, and you're kind of like, what did I just read? Like, what? I don't quite follow what's going on here. And it is kind of unfortunate, but honestly, you're probably going to play this game for graphics, for gameplay, and maybe for the music, but you're not really going into this thinking it's going to be a really grandiose story. There is some elements there that work, but yeah, I don't know. You speak Japanese. Could you understand everything?
Yeah, the story did not really. I don't know. The story's kind of like meh. Like, even that's kind of part of why I've got bored with it, because it just didn't really interest me. And I was getting to the point where it'd be like, okay, plot point B. Let's go to plot point C. Okay.
Uh-huh.
All right. Okay. Go to D. All right. Okay. And I was totally unengaged in it. I was just kind of like, okay. All right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Kill giant spider.
Yeah. Well, yeah, giant spider. Great. This is awesome.
Okay.
And then, yeah.
Kill the dragon gods. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. Slash. Boom.
Yeah, but half the bosses, I don't even know why I was fighting them. I mean, you're just suddenly at this place, and it's talking about, he's just like, Kisuke, you killed me 5 years ago. And you're like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
I don't remember a thing.
So just, yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, but again, you see the big bosses, and it's eye candy. Let's kick this thing's ass. That's all that matters. This thing's just like, I want you, sucker. And you're just like, let's go, let's do it, let's dance. And it's you, 3 swords, and this giant thing that you got to kill. So
they should have called the game.
You, 3 swords, and a giant thing you got to kill.
Yes. Then it totally sold. Totally.
I guess we should just, before we close it up here, we should quickly touch on the gameplay a little bit. And so the gameplay is very straightforward. You're just running around. You're basically slashing guys as much as you can to take them down. You're allowed 3 swords in your arsenal, which can be changed at any point and can have different special attacks, which kind of also have a hit point scale, would you say?
Or like a
meter, a power
points.
meter, breaking meter.
Yeah.
So you can do these special attacks so many times before it kind of runs out, and then it needs to be recharged. And the sword will recharge when you close it and change to another sword. But as you mentioned earlier, the swords can break, and they can recharge while in battle, but it can take quite a long time, and often you'll be dead before the chance to get the sword back presents itself.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it didn't break too horribly much. I played it on the regular setting, I guess. I don't know.
Whatever the first one was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played it on the
normal setting, and
I don't know if
that was easy.
I'm presuming yours was the easier mode, and then I think mine was the normal mode, I guess.
Yeah.
Normal mode, your sword breaks a lot. There's a lot of times where your sword breaks.
Well, yeah, especially with like explosions, or if you're blocking certain attacks, it'll break really quickly.
Well, a lot of the bosses have kind of these multiple strike moves where they just keep hitting you, and you're trying to block it, but your sword's gonna break because you just keep getting hit.
Right. So, and I like that aspect. That's a nice little gameplay mechanic.
Yeah, I liked it too. I thought it was neat, and
so you can't just sit there and try to abuse block, and it's a good way of getting around programming a block and all that sort of
Yeah, no, it's cool. And it gave you the chance to use 3 different weapons and trying to find a good combination that you preferred to use.
Right, 'cause some of the special attacks for some of the weapons are pretty poor.
Yeah, some of them didn't seem to do very much, and then other ones were just way too overpowered, it seemed like, which I mean is to be expected, right? I mean, especially later on in the game, you can get something that doesn't allow your sword to ever break. So you can just continually just spam these special attacks. And even if they're not really strong, they kind of make you invincible, most of them.
Right.
So you can't be hit while you're doing them with some of them, such as like these kind of spinning wheel attacks where you're just spinning in a circle and you're just swinging your sword like wild. They can't really do anything. So it makes the game very easy. But this is also very, very late in the game. So
yeah, kind of expected for that sort of thing.
Yeah, by that point, you've already invested 30 plus hours, so it's just kind of there. And once you get to the end of the game, honestly, I mean, I played through the entire game. I did everything you could do in this game. And once you do it, you put it down. And I mean, I enjoyed my time. I liked the game a lot. I'd give it a fairly solid score. I probably won't return to it though, and that's just being completely honest. And Taylor just won't return at all. So
I put in my time. I did my time.
You did your time.
And I feel bad too, because this was a game that I was like, oh, let's try playing this, because this was my suggestion. It wasn't like Sushi put me up to it. I was like, oh, let's play Muramasa. It'll be fun. Was it?
And I went for it. I went as far down the rabbit hole as you could with this game. So
yeah, and I was like, blur, this is not for me. So
yeah, that happens. So, but I mean, I would still suggest this game for sure, because I know you can get it very cheap now. It's probably $10. I mean, you can probably find it in bargain bins if you're in North America. I'm not too sure about Japan, but I don't foresee it being a very highly sought after game that's become very expensive. I'm sure there are more than enough copies floating around.
Honestly, I don't remember. I bought this when I first bought my Wii when I came to Japan, so that was 2.5 years ago. Yeah. So it was one of the first games I bought for my Wii too. I was excited for it. I was like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, I was on the hunt for this one for a while. I couldn't track it down, at least for a reasonable price as well. And
And I was talking to you about it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I don't know if I remembered it or if I mentioned it to you or not." But I had played like an hour and a half or 2 hours of it,
yeah.
and then I stopped playing it. Now I remember why I
Now you
stopped
remember
playing
why, yeah.
it. So, there's a
But
reason why you stop playing games, guys. There might be a pretty good reason why you stop.
wife was having a kid, got in a car accident, abducted by aliens, anally probed by the government, taking grandma to the hospital. There's a lot of other better reasons, but yes, if you stop playing a game, it is likely because you disliked it.
If you're not interested in the game, I'm not gonna. Even though I don't like the game, I would say at least give it a shot, especially for how cheap you could probably get it. Just to at least give it a shot, because I mean, unless you're not just generally just not interested in it, then by all means don't feel obliged to be like, oh well, Taylor said at least give it a shot. Don't listen to what Taylor says.
It's definitely
tells you
geared
to
towards,
give you money. Give me money.
Yeah, it's geared towards someone who really would like 2D action games, but still take it with a grain of caution. You might not like the game. You might not like the setting. You might not like the music. But yeah, if you're somewhat interested and it is cheap, I don't foresee why you wouldn't want to give it a chance.
Right, or you can just turn it into like a gag gift and just, keep the train moving to give it to other people.
Oh, it's not that bad. I've definitely played much worse. So.
I know.
You're really punishing this game.
That idea is out there. But yeah, that's all. That's my 2 cents for that.
Yeah, me too. That's a good point, I think, to jump off the diving board there and give it a wrap up here.
Wrap it up.
So yeah, that's Muramasa, the Demon Blade for the Wii. We seem to be somewhat agreement that it's a fairly solid title, relatively solid. We're checking out. But take some caution with it. And yeah, if you're kind of dying for something on the Wii, it might be worth looking into. With that, how about you lead us out of here, Taylor?
All right. So yeah, any sort of comments, questions, jokes you want to tell, put them down below. Also, there is a Facebook page and I have a Twitter account for the Power On Podcast. So if you're wanting to kind of like hear different things, or if you want us to kind of like try out new games or something, or what have you, please put them there.
Reach out to us.
And touch us.
But not there. Yes, please. We'd love to hear from you.
So yeah, so that's really about it, guys. So thanks for listening, and have a good day.